Hi, I'm Matt,
And I'm Jack.
and we're here to tell you today that kids really can change the world.
That sounds like a bumper sticker.
That's true. But it's actually something that we believe.
Yes. And how do we know that kids can change the world?
Well,
We met them all over America. This past year, our family took a year-long road trip to all 50 states, and we interviewed over 75 kids who were changing the world and making it better.
now change the world might sound a little bit audacious, maybe even a bit of an exaggeration. But I gotta say, after meeting all these kids around America and some of their projects, they totally blew us away. And they really are changing the world in powerful ways. Take, for example, Nicholas Lowinger. He's from Rhode Island, and over the past few years, he's been able to help donate over 40,000 pair of brand new shoes to homeless children all across America. Or just up the road in Dallas, the Adams sisters have raised over $1 million and been able to help fund over 100 clean water wells all over the globe by folding origami.
Or Joshua in Miami, who's helped distribute over 1 million pounds of food to tens of thousands of hungry families in South Florida. Or Olivia Borden in Colorado, who's started out making handmade dolls for girls in Nicaragua, and now she's gone down and trained women to sew the dolls for her.
Yeah. So clearly, after hearing even just a handful of these stories and interviewing all these people around America, we know exactly what makes kids want to be change makers, right?
We don't, but we're planning to find out.
True. So we're working with some psychologists in the Los Angeles area on a child development study. And what they're doing is they're taking all the interviews that we had and they're studying them to find out exactly what factors actually shape these kids to be change makers. The hope is that with all this information, we can actually go into communities and help communities create environments that really foster change making in future generations.
So what exactly are we here to share about today?
Well, while we don't have all the data from the child development study yet, we did have 3 really intriguing observations that we found while we were on the road that really seemed to hold true for all the kids that we met. And they're observations about how these kids were becoming change makers because they were thinking and acting like change makers in really organic and natural ways.
The first observation we made was that all of these kids had a trigger experience. It could have been something that happened to them personally, something that could have happened to somewhere in the world, and they couldn't have said no because it was such a massive disaster. Or kids, or maybe people in their own communities. And they paired those experiences to things that they love, things that they're good at, or things that they know. Let's unpack that a little bit more. Lulu Cerrone is a teenager we met in California who has this love of parties. She learned about the earthquake in Haiti. It hit when she was 10, and she immediately wanted to help. So she grabbed all her friends, and they had a lemonade stand battle. They tried to raise more money than the other person. And in 2 weeks, they raised about $4,000. So that was the start of her idea for philanthroparties. And philanthroparties are parties with a purpose. Now Lulu brings social action into her social activity, and she's using something that she loves, parties, to make the world better. Katie Stagliano is a skilled gardener we met in North Carolina. She is really good at gardening, and she grew a 40-pound cabbage whenever she was younger, and she donated it to a local food bank where she lives in Summersville, South Carolina, and she found out that it fed over 200 people. So she thought, what if I could grow a whole garden to fight hunger in my own community? So she did, and she is, and she also gives grants now to kids who want to do that everywhere in the United States. She's using something that she loves, gardening, to make the world better. Elijah Evans is a boy we met in Louisiana who was 2 years old, and his biological mother burned him in scalding water when she gave him a bath. And because of this abuse, he was put into the foster care system. And after he got adopted, he decided to start No Use for Abuse, which works to prevent child abuse through education and advocacy for victims of child abuse. And it also works to create these safe spaces, events that hold at least over 200 foster kids during the holidays, so that they have a place that feels like home. It's a giant celebration. Elijah is using what he knows, his own story, to make the world better. What do you love? What are you good at? And what do you know?
Thanks, Jack. The second observation that we made along the way was that the parents of these kids, or the adults that were around these kids, they stepped out of the way and made space for these kids to run. So some of the parents or the adults were really involved in these kids' projects. They volunteered alongside them, they took them from event to event, and they were really, really encouraging. There were other parents and adults who were a little bit more on the sidelines. They were still encouraging, they were still cheering on, but they allowed the kids to run a little bit more freely, which meant that the kids were running into challenges along the way. The parents didn't run in front and move all the obstacles out of the way and make it all safe and easy. So it was a little less involved. We had other parents that we met and adults who were virtually uninvolved. We met one dad. He actually had no idea what his own daughter did to help serve the homeless in her community. He just knew that.
Oh, sorry. And she won a national award, and that's how we found her.
Yeah. So he really had no idea what she did. He just knew that she did something, right?
Yep.
But when she came to him, she said, "Hey, Dad, I need some money to buy bread to make some sandwiches." He gave her $5. Well, she's like, "Well, no, I need to make 200 sandwiches for the homeless people in the community." And he gave her $50. So he had no idea what was going on, but he still didn't say no. And in the process, helped to empower her work and really connect in the community. So what can we as adults do to try to step out of the way? Well, first thing that we learned is that we can help our kids experience life on their own. Okay? Let me give you a quick example. All right, Jack and I, we go to a parade, right? There's a huge crowd of people, and it's kind of hard to see over, but I'm taller, so I can see what's going on out here. Unfortunately, Jack, all he's getting is everybody's backs, right? So I can do a couple of things. I can explain in great detail how beautiful this parade is, and Jack will soak in the glory of my words. Or I can lift him up so he can actually see it for himself, right? Now, which one of these things is going to be a more impacting experience for Jack? The second thing that we learned along the way is that if we really want our kids if we want to step out of the way, we really need to understand our kids. We met a guy in Montana who said, if you really want to understand somebody, you need to learn how to stand under them and lift them up. Now, that doesn't mean we push people. If I'm going to stand under, if I'm going to understand Jack, it means I don't push him into activities and things that are totally foreign to him, that he has no interest in whatsoever, nor does it mean I'm going to pull him out of every challenge or danger that he faces on his journey. What it means is that I get to know him. I need to understand, if I want Jack to grow up to be a change maker, I need to understand his story and who he is. I need to understand what he loves, what he's good at, what he knows. And in that process, he's going to make mistakes, right? I need to give him space to run, and I need to give him space to fall, to get bruised and banged up and scarred a little bit. But the deal is, all those bruises and scars and bumps, that's his story. And if Jack grows up his whole life long and he doesn't have those bruises and bumps and scars, he's not going to have a story of his own to learn from.
Thanks, Dad. The third observation we made was that all of these kids had a little bit of troublemaker in them. And it's not that they were bad kids. Most of them were kind, gentle. Many were soft-spoken. They were pretty much all good listeners. But the difference was that they were not okay with the status quo, and they were definitely going to push back against any injustices that they see.
Yeah, in fact, some of the parents even said that of the kids that they had in their family, the ones who we came to interview who were the change makers were some of the more challenging to raise because they had a million questions. They always wanted to know why. They were not okay with things being broken, and they would never, ever receive the word something like, well, we tried that before and it didn't work.
Or we've never done it that way before.
Or because I said so.
Yeah. So this whole event is about connections. So what connections can you draw from our presentation and our observations? First, if you're a kid and you want to be a change maker, learn to connect your story, the things you love, the things you're good at, and the things you know. Start by making a list. What do you love? What are you good at? What really makes your heart race? When do you feel most alive? What events have shaped you the most? And who are you becoming, and who do you want to become?
Yeah. The second thing you can do as an adult is to really get to know and to understand and meet your child where they are today. Not who you want them to be down the road or some projection of what you hope for them. You need to see the potential in them as they are right now. You might have a kid who all they want to do all day is play video games, okay? Don't freak out. It's going to be okay. Because all you have to do is look up Shree Bose. She's the first Google Science Award winner. She's a student at Harvard that we met and interviewed. And a couple years ago, she worked with her friends to create this thing called Piper. It's a game that uses Minecraft to teach children how to build and program computers while playing Minecraft. Your kid might just want to play video games today, but they might actually be following in Shree's footsteps.
Third, connect to your community. Austin's a gigantic place with thousands of opportunities to serve, but you want to make sure that you're actually doing something to make an impact.
So how do you find out about the local needs? Start talking to people who actually know about the local needs. Talk to your parents, talk to teachers, talk to business owners and elected officials. And please, talk to people who are actually in need. So often, there are perceived needs in the world that don't actually line up with the actual needs of people. But if you start talking to these people, developing a relationship with them, listening to them, then you start to learn how to connect your story to theirs.
So, now, if you like sports, think about ways you can change the world with sports. Maybe you could talk to your team about doing a fundraising event, or you can maybe organize a camp for kids who can't otherwise afford to play.
Yeah. Or maybe you like music, so you could have a benefit concert. Or maybe take your band to a local senior center and play live music for people who couldn't otherwise get out and see it.
Or, if you like people, volunteer anywhere and everywhere you get the chance.
Yeah. Learn to serve, learn to listen, ask a million questions. And then slowly and surely, you're going to dig down deep into your own story and start to recognize how to make the connections between who you really are deep down inside and your role in being part of changing the world.
So now it's your turn. What do you love? What are you good at? And what do you know? Ready, set, go. Thanks.